This week we begin the observance of the 9 days from Rosh Chodesh Av until after the fast. It is a very difficult time for us as the Jewish people, for us as individuals, where we need to remain focused on the important significance of this week. And so there are things that we don't do. We don't shower as we normally do. We don't eat meat as we normally do. We stay away from any celebration as we normally do. We don't listen to music as we normally do. It's a sad period of time. Where should our mind be? What should our focus be? So I'd like to share with you a story from the Sefer Hasidim, which I think really sums up what our frame of mind should be during this difficult week. The Sefer Hasidim says the following: Massei bechosid echad. There was a story concerning one very pious individual. Shahaya noeg, that it was his custom, be'atzmo, with himself, k'shahaya adam avel, v'halach lenachamo. When there was a person in his community, a person that he knew, who was an avel, who was a mourner, and he would go to comfort this mourner, he would go to pay a shiva call. Chazar lebeso b'li min alayim. He would go back home from this person's home without wearing shoes. And what's the reason? The Sefer Hasidim says, leitzta'er im ha'avel. In order for him to connect, in order for him to struggle and to suffer like the avel, the mourner, who is not wearing shoes. So the Sefer Hasidim continues and says that Hashem obviously looked at this individual with a great amount of admiration and love. Also Chassid, that pious man, Mace, left this world. He was nifter, he died, B'Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av. Kishehis asfu kol ha-kihilos le'osa ha'ir. It was a day in which all of the communities, all of the small congregations got together into the city, and they went to this person's funeral, this man's funeral, v'halchu kulam yechefim, and they all went barefoot, they all went without shoes. So just like this individual during his life wanted to connect, wanted to feel the pain of the Jew who was sitting Shiva, and so he went without shoes so that that person could feel comforted, so too when this person passed away, all of the people who went to his funeral were not wearing shoes. V'hera HaKadosh Baruch Hu shahatov v'hayashar be'einav asa. So the Sefer Hasidim says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it obvious that what this man did was very special in the eyes of Hashem. Now, of course, we don't have such a custom. A person who is not an avel, is not a mourner, doesn't act like an avel. But the lesson here is very powerful. This pious man didn't need to take off his shoes and sort of try to connect with the struggle, with the sadness of the mourner by doing so. But he did so because he wanted to feel the pain of a Jew who was suffering, to feel that pain. And the Sfas Emes continues and says, similarly, when it came to the death of Aaron HaKohen died on Rosh Chodesh Av. Why did he die on Rosh Chodesh Av? So the Sfas Emes says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to make sure that during this period of time, which is difficult for the Jewish people, that we would remember an individual who represented the opposite of sinna, of hatred, or an individual who represented love, ahava, and that individual was Aaron HaKohen. As we're told that Aaron represented ahava, he placed a certain sense of love, of shalom, ben ish le'ishto, between husband and wife, within families. Aaron was always trying to bring people together. And so Hashem repays Aaron. Hashem comforts the Jewish people by allowing us during this period of time to remember Aaron's life and what Aaron represented. So perhaps our avoda, our work for this period, for the 9 days, is twofold. It's one, to show a sense of ahava to the Jewish people, to our fellow Jews, a tremendous sense of love. Considering the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinah, because of hatred, so we do the opposite. We show a tremendous love to our fellow Jews. And how do we do so on the second level? That is that we find a way, not the physical way as the man and the pious man in the Sefer Hasidim did, but that we find a way to connect to the pain of another Jew who is suffering. That we find a way to make sure that we can make our fellow Jews feel connected so that when they suffer, they don't feel alone. And that's something which is very important. There are too many people in life that feel alone even though they live in our communities. And this is an opportunity for us to really correct, not just for this week, but really for the entire year and for all our lives, to make sure that when a Jew suffers, that they don't suffer alone, to make sure that we go out of our way to show them a sense of ahava, to show them that we care, and in doing so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will smile upon us. May we be zoche that this time next year we prepare for a big simcha of the holiday of Tisha B'Av and not for another fast. Thank you for listening and have a good Shabbos.